In the middle of the Ionian Sea, not far from the West Greek mainland, lies an island with a long tradition. The island of Corfu has long been known as an excellent resort base. The beautiful beaches in the blue sea bewitched the Austrian Empress Elizabeth and many English lords. The island has white sandy beaches, but also high steep rocks, olive woods, slender cypresses, vineyards and cornfields. It is more lushly vegetated than other parts of Greece, and it is surely one of the most interesting and most varied of all Greek destinations. The capital of the island is the small port of Corfu, or Kerkyra as the Greeks themselves call it. Here in the port you can watch local fishermen at work mending their nets and boats, observe ferries landing from the mainland, or admire yachts from all over the world. The town of Corfu is one of the few towns in the Mediterranean in which the majority of the houses still emanate from the past centuries. The narrow streets, small squares and churches have a very special atmosphere. The well-preserved old town and countless staircases might resemble Italy, but the people themselves are definitely Greeks. Corfu is the northernmost Ionian island. The old centre of the town radiates noble peace. At Easter, the town is full of religious chants and believers move from church to celebrate the salvation. 98% of all Greeks are Greek Orthodox. It is called Orthodox because it claims to have been the only Christian church faithful to the faith of the apostles, martyrs and church fathers. But the noisy procession after the Easter prayer is for the eyes and ears rather unorthodox. We can only speculate if they play the Radetzky March in commemoration of the Empress Elizabeth or the Emperor Wilhelm II, who fell in love with this island the same as today's visitors do. Everything in Greece passes slowly and calmly. People meet in cafes, chat and argue and sip typical Greek coffee. The nicest cafes on the island are on the central square, the Esplanade. Under the arcades there are countless cafes with enough visitors from early morning to late evening. Old and young people meet here, as well as tourists and locals having breakfast, drinking frappes or simply enjoying calm days on Corfu. The square is a reminder of the French and later British protectorate. You can still see their traces here. On nice Sundays, people still play the British national sport cricket on the large lawn on the square. It's an unusual picture, but still, this varied mixture of culture and lifestyle is interesting. The well-preserved fortress above the town of Corfu faced, not always successfully, toward intruders and conquerors. The flag of the winners often changed every year. Today there is an excellent view of the town from the castle, and there is a good cafe in the castle restaurant. The Austrian Empress Elizabeth had a castle built on Corfu at the end of the 19th century. On her many travels, she fell in love with the island decades earlier. In the castle modelled on Pompeian architecture, she could escape the more and more unbearable life of the Viennese court, and she could occupy herself with Greek antiquity and mythology. Her favourite hero was Achilles, and she had several statues made of him. "I like him because he embodies the Greek soul and beauty of the country and the people," she said. "He was strong, willful, and he despised all kings and traditions." The unhappy empress explained her affection. Four kilometres to the south of Corfu, near the village of Canoni, there are two small islands. The nearest one, Antilipsi, with the Vlacherna monastery, is connected to the mainland by a bridge. Behind it there is Ponte Conisi, the island of mice, overgrown with cypresses, with a chapel from the 16th century. The island of mice became world famous thanks to the painting by Böcklin. Due to its landscape, it is definitely worth it to cross over there by boat. To best get to know the whole island, the best way is to make a journey of exploration by car. On picturesque coast roads always in sight of the sea, the eastern coast passes by. Everywhere there are beautiful bays with gorgeous ports and small beaches which invite you to stop and bathe. These small bays give the island a special charm. There are beautifully coloured fishermen's boats, and it is possible to rent one of them and set out on an explorational trip. If you travel on the coastal road to the northwest, you go around endless olive woods to one of the most beautiful and mysterious of Corfu's coasts, to the Canal d'Amore, the Channel of Love. Women who swim here and think about a certain man will marry him soon. But the channels are attractive even for those who aren't in love and don't have any intentions of getting married soon. Small beaches and bays bitten out by the sea into the yellow and white sandstone cliffs guarantee awesome swimming conditions. But what shouldn't be missing on any tour around the island is a detour inland. Here there are still many villages which seem not to have lost anything of their authenticity and charm. On one of the largest plains you get to the Pearl of Corfu. This beautifully set and carefully maintained golf course is one of the nicest in Europe. Surrounded by green mountains and cypress woods, the course is still a secret tip among golf players. But he who experiences Corfu only from land doesn't know it wholly. Ideally placed Paleokastrica offers the opportunity to rent a small boat with which you can explore the impressive steep coast on the west of Corfu. The cliffs up to 300 meters high have always faced the open sea. Not far from the western Greek shore, there is a white Greek island. It is completely different from the Aegean Islands and it's very varied. It has a flat shore and many small islands in the east, an impressive steep coastline in the west, and high mountains inland. Lefkas, the jewel of the Ionian Sea, is a peaceful island. People like to visit the island because of its landscape. Lefkas, or Lefkada, as it is sometimes called, is connected to the mainland by a long dam. This Ionian island has many hidden bays and caves which are accessible only by boat. Through the crystal clear water you can see right to the bottom and watch the beautiful play of light. Lefkas offers ideal conditions for exploration by mountain bike. You can rent bikes everywhere here, but you must be fit to manage the hilly roads. Through narrow winding gaps and lovely coastal roads you get to all interesting corners of Lefkas without any problems. If you go by bike you have enough time to enjoy the landscape. Lots of vegetation, white beaches on the west coast and the azure blue sea create a play of colours which is rarely seen. Mountains up to 1,000 meters high offer magnificent vistas of large parts of the island. Far inland there are still some villages that seem to be unspoiled by tourism and by stress. As they have always done, old people sit here by the street talking, sipping coffee, and are happy to see an unusual visit in the village. It isn't really easy to decide where to stop and jump into the water. Long sandy and gravel beaches, small picturesque bays and hidden rocky pools promise great fun bathing for everybody. Water is so clear and clean here, which is now hard to find in the Mediterranean. And on some coasts there are small caves with narrow channels, small cavities and pools. In them the sun rays playfully refract and change them into small hidden paradises. When you arrive at such a small village, be it on the coast or inland, it's worth visiting one of the pubs. Even though the Greek cuisine isn't for the strictest gourmets, you can still find the menu interesting. Despite the prevailing farm simplicity and not much invention, everybody can find here something he or she likes. And what can't be missing after a real Greek meal is Greek coffee and the obligatory ouzo. It's made with aniseed, drunk with water or straight, and it helps with digestion, stimulates your spirit and spreads a very good mood. And it's true for this island too. If you want to get to know it whole, you have to dare to get near the water and exchange bikes for a boat. For Lefkas reveals one of its sights only from the water. Small boats that take you to the open sea are to be found almost everywhere. We're going along the last promontory of the relatively flat eastern shore to the Grand Steep coast. As soon as we go around the famous Cape Ducato, the southernmost promontory of Lefkas, a magnificent view opens in front of us. The rocks by the cape impressed the ancient Greeks and stirred their imagination. It is said that Sappho, the first world woman poet, threw herself down from here because of heartbreak, and Homer believed that the way of the dead to Hades was here. The white rocks up to 300 meters high, which have been facing the roaring surf, gave the island its name, Lefkas, the White. If you go further along the coast, still to the north, an interesting experience is waiting on this already beautiful cruise. Not far from the rocks of Lefkas, surrounded by sheer cliffs, lies one of the most beautiful beaches in Greece, Porto Katsiki. Porto Katsiki Goat Port is readily accessible only by water. Clean water and a white strip of sand that is surrounded by huge cliffs on all sides make Porto Katsiki a beach of dreams. And while people still lie in the sun on Porto Katsiki, the other part of the island is very busy. The bay at Vasiliki is one of the best places with shallow water in Europe, and it's magically attractive for surfers from all over the world. The wind blows from the mountains almost every afternoon, which makes the bay an ideal place. Wind force up to 6 to 7 degrees on the Beaufort scale isn't rare here. On the west coast of Greece is the rather unknown, small but nice resort Parga. It has many narrow streets with restaurants and shops with ice cream and souvenirs. Amongst the many resorts of the Aegean Sea and the Peloponnese, Parga doesn't have to be ashamed at all. Parga lies on a small peninsula. It is surrounded by beautiful bays with beaches that tempt you to lie in the sun and bathe. There are small islands and jagged rocks sticking out of the sea, giving the bays unique character. In the town of Parga, there are many nice hotels and apartment houses surrounded by flowers that are part of the charm of this port. All hotels lie right by the beaches, where you can do all possible water sports and the whole family will surely enjoy itself. High above Parga there is an old castle. It comes from the times when the Turks undertook campaigns in Greece. It is said that it is Ali Pasha's castle. It isn't as historically valuable as many other ruins in the surroundings, but it's definitely worth a visit. There are bushes, trees and grass growing everywhere, turning the ancient walls into a romantic place. No signs lead visitors and there are no information boards. You can reveal the secrets of the castle by yourself and experience the romance of the old half-decayed walls. From the castle towers there is a great view inland on the one side and of the sea and to Parga on the other side. At the end of the peninsula, another castle guards the town. It dates back to the Venetian period, and if you make some effort and climb up, you can enjoy a view of Parga and its bays. The romantic castle is also great to have a walk in. You can get to many sites around Parga only by car or by bus. Some of the most beautiful sites can also be explored by boat. In the port there are many small boat taxis which take tourists to lonely beaches along the coast or to the storied river Acheron, which flows into the sea several kilometers to the south of Parga. It is one of the greatest attractions of Parga and you can reach it in about half an hour. We go along the coast with steep rocks and flat beaches. Small islands resembling mushroom caps are sticking out of the sea everywhere. When we leave the coast and enter the estuary of the Acheron, the landscape suddenly changes. There is more and more vegetation. The trees are hanging down into the water, creating a narrow channel. That's Acheron, the river which separated the underworld from the world of the living in ancient Greek mythology. As the boat goes through the narrow channel, the atmosphere is scary. Old myths also surround the stones of the oracle. The old Greeks believed that you could make contact with the underworld here. People brought a small offering and underwent necessary mystical rituals. The place where a church was later built hasn't lost anything of its mysterious atmosphere, which makes it easy for visitors to imagine the rituals of the past ancient days. There are still jugs standing in the old cells in which pilgrims used to stop to go down into the oracle with pure heart and make contact with the dead and with the gods. The springs of Acheron are here in the mountains not far from the oracle in this beautiful region. Old myths say that people in the ancient world used to think that here, at the place where the waters of the Acheron spring from the rock, there is an entrance into the underworld. The wild landscape of this area is one of the finest in Greece. The river coils through the deep valley. It's hard to think about fear of the underworld, but there's no doubt that this place really is mystical. This mountainous part of Epirus is ideal for romantic walks but also for long hikes. There are often trips organized through the valley of the Acheron and into the surrounding mountains. But there are other sites around Parga too, such as for example the oldest amphitheatre in Greece, Dodoni. This large area surrounded by mountains includes many sites, witnesses of the oldest Greek oracle. As early as 1876, archaeologists knew that Dodoni existed, but they placed it in other parts of Epirus. If you go further into the mountains of Epirus, whether by car or on foot, you should surely visit Cassiope. Cassiope is a site with excavations of an ancient town which was buried by an earthquake and deserted in the period before Christ. The huge area of one of the nicest wild romantic gardens in Greece is well preserved. Flowers and grasses grow between the ruins of an old temple. Ancient olive trees stand between the remains of pillars, and wild growing wheat is waving in the wind along the rest of the walls. The Ionian Islands have a lot to offer to every visitor to Greece. While Corfu bewitches its visitors with its harmony of nature and great structures, Lefkas is attractive for the smaller things that make for a relaxing and inspiring experience. But it's not only the islands which are appealing in this region. The west coast of Greece is also attractive thanks to its mythical history and truly fascinating culture.